If you have Asperger's syndrome, sometimes it just seems like that you are a mouse living in a world full of cats. You're trying to fit in, you're doing everything you can not to be mauled by other people. You're finding it very difficult to keep up this mask in which you are expected to look people in the eye. You're expected to be friendly and to have casual conversation with just complete strangers. And then there comes the hug. There are people out there who want to hug you, and quite frankly, you would prefer not to be touched, let alone hugged. So what do? Well, you get tired after a while. You become fatigued. And so we call this Asperger's fatigue. It's something that anybody and everybody with Asperger's syndrome will likely face multiple times throughout their life. And speaking of which, I'm pushing 70 years old. And so I've seen a lot of things in my time, and I just want to take some of those experiences that I've had as an individual who's had Asperger's syndrome as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, as a middle-aged adult, and now as a senior. I know what you're going through, or at least I've gone through that stage of life, and I want to help you out with some of the experiences that I've had. So you're encountering this phenomenon called Asperger's fatigue, and you're just tired of it, and you don't necessarily know where to turn, and that can be frustrating, but more seriously, it can be even depressing. But yeah, we got hope. There are things that we can do. There are strategies that we can employ to help us get through the rough times. And by the way, they are rough times, but that doesn't mean they're permanent. We're not going to diminish the fact that they're difficult, but hey, they don't have to stay that way all the time. Well, number one, we need to understand that everyone gets fatigued. I mean, everyone, and everyone. Now, let's stop and think of it this way. Here's a good analogy. Have you ever heard a song that you just love? Maybe a top hit song. I'm trying to think of my favorite song of all time. Well, when I'm thinking of that, what song did you like the best? If you went back all your life, the song that you heard and you just fell in love with it, and you heard it over, you played it over and over and over again. What was that song? Who was the group? Put it in the comment section so everybody can know. We'll see if we agree with you. But here the point is this. Particularly when still, not just when I was younger, but still, I always had a fascination for the Beach Boys because I love that good harmony music. And I will hear a song that they sang and play it because, it triggered the dopamine response. Gave me a good feeling. And then I'd play it again. And then I'd play it again. And you know where I'm going with this. You play it over and over and over and over. And eventually, you're tired of hearing it. That's fatigue. And that's what happens with Asperger's syndrome. But it's not just people with Asperger's syndrome that get fatigued. Obviously, anybody can. But the point is that sometimes you just have to stop playing the record. Well, can you do that as an Aspie? I mean, you're expected to make eye contact. Can you just stop making eye contact? I mean, is that even conceivably possible? And the answer is, yes, it is. We're going to tell you how to go about that in just a minute. Southern gospel music. This is a little bit off topic, but I've always enjoyed listening to Southern gospel music. Now, when I was a kid, people thought I was a little strange because I had Asperger's syndrome. And what made it even worse, well, I should say what compounded it. I don't know that it made it worse, but what compounded that impression was I liked Southern gospel music as a teenager. Everybody else was listening to, I don't know how many people out there my age, but they were listening to the Rolling Stones. They still alive, by the way. I don't know. The Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and I was listening to the Blackwood Brothers and the Statesman Quartet. And there was one record I loved in particular. Now, most people would get fatigued earlier, but there's something about people with Asperger's syndrome is they like things orderly, and they're not as, with exceptions, they're not as bothered by repetition, particularly if it's something that you enjoy. And I would take that Blackwood Brothers Quartet, and if you don't know who they are, you can Google it, and I would play it over and over and over and over again. And I didn't get fatigued. but my family did. And one day I came home and I was from school and I was going to play my Blackwood Brothers Quartet record because that's one of the ways that I could unwind from all the pressures of being a person with Asperger's syndrome and having to deal with all that all day long in school. I couldn't find my record. It was missing. And so I went looking for it, and finally I found it. Apparently my sister had broken it. She got tired of hearing the thing. Okay, so music, you get tired of hearing the same, even if you loved it initially, you get tired of hearing the same thing over and over. You become fatigued. Trying to think of some other things that would fall along those lines, things that you just get tired of. You never get tired of eating, right? But you get tired of eating the same food over and over and over again. You want to tell me in the comment section if you want. I don't care so much about this, but if there is a particular food that you really like, but you wouldn't want to have it for supper every day, or maybe you would. I don't know. I could eat pizza 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Of course, I'd die of a heart attack or whatever, but I could. I mean, I just don't seem to ever get tired of it. And I could eat fried chicken, but you get the point. Fatigue is something that everybody faces all the time. You get tired of going to the same job. You may get tired of wearing the same clothes. I don't. You'll notice that I wear basically identical shirts every time I make a presentation. I don't get tired of it, but Asperger's syndrome, maybe you don't get tired of your shirts, but you certainly get tired of making small talk. You certainly get tired of having to make eye contact. You get tired of trying to maneuver through a world of cats when you are, in fact, a mouse. You get tired of wearing the mask all the time. It becomes fatiguing, and you need to take a break. Another example just comes to mind. I'll mention this really quick because just to drive home the point. But early spring, one thing I love to do is get out and mow the grass because it needs to be mowing. I like to get out and do that. And I will mow the grass seriously 2-3 times a week, maybe even more in the growing season. And I enjoy it. I figure, hey, I need to take a walk. Well, why not walk around the yard pushing my lawnmower? If I'm going to get exercise, going to take time walking, I may as well put it to good use. And as a bonus, I actually get something done. My yard looks nice. So that is what fatigue is all about. Because come October, I don't want to mow the grass so much anymore. In fact, I don't want to mow it at all. A few months ago it was extremely enjoyable, and now it's just fatigue. Okay, so here are some of the things we can do. Number one, as we've been talking about, is we just acknowledge that everybody has fatigue. Everybody experiences it, and it's not just things related to Asperger's syndrome. Could be anything like mowing the grass or playing the same music. You get tired of it, or wearing the same clothes, or going to the same job. It becomes a drill, and that dopamine trigger that was initially there isn't there anymore. So now it's just drudgery. So the second thing is this. This is important. Just go with the flow. Now by that I mean, say you take a daily walk. Every day I walk about 2.5 miles, and there's probably something that you do every day, particularly if you have Asperger's syndrome, because we tend to do things regularly. They call those routines. Now, let's just using this analogy, let's imagine that I'm out taking my 2.5 mile walk, and this has actually happened before, and I'll start to feel this pain in my shins, maybe somewhere else in my leg, but typically my shins. And what do you do when that happens? Well, here's what happens. You quit walking. When you're, at least my experience, when you're doing any kind of physical exercise, there comes a time when you're going to face some kind of injury. And when that happens, usually the best plan of action is to just stop it. Stop whatever you're doing and give it time to heal. And that may take several days, it may take several weeks, it could, in extreme cases, take months. But you got to go with the flow. Well, what does that even mean, go with the flow? By that I mean you need to listen to your brain's advice. So when I'm walking and I get a shin splint, that is my brain advising me that something is wrong. You got a car, you got those little red lights that come on and tell you there's something wrong with your car. I got a car that has a little light that comes on if the tires are low or if the oil is low. I think everyone has that. And if the water is low and if the gas fuel tank is low. You got to pay attention to those lights. Well, you don't have lights in your body, so you have something in place of lights. You have this thing called pain. And those are your lights to say there's something wrong here. To tell you, hey, you're low on water. I mean, literally. You get thirsty. Taking a walk, literally, you get pain if you're having a shin splint. And so what happens is, or what you should do, in my opinion, is just wait until it heals. Okay, now, what is fatigue? Well, that's similar to pain in the sense that it is your brain signaling you to knock it off. And instead of shin splint, it is fatigue. You've been doing this too much. You need to give it a break. It's time for a refreshment, for your body to refresh itself. You need to stop doing that thing that you're doing. Well, if that thing you're doing is forcing yourself to make eye contact or forcing yourself to enter into small talk conversations, which are very uncomfortable many times, just take a break. Because your body is saying, hey, if it hurts, quit doing it. Let it heal. Again, that's your body saying you need to heal. When you get fatigued, I think that is your body saying you're overdoing it. And you need to, when you're working out and you get that muscle fatigue and your muscle is breaking down, well, you got to take a break for it to build back. And usually, if you're doing it right, it builds back bigger and better. And I think maybe the same thing applies to the conditions that, the traits rather, that people with Asperger's syndrome experience all the time. Maybe if you take a break, you'll get better at it when you come off your break. All right, so that takes us to number 3, and that is this. How much time should you take to heal? How long does it take? Well, the answer to that is surprisingly simple. It's not a week, 2 weeks, or a month, or a year, whatever. The answer is until the pain goes away. Now, with Asperger's syndrome, the pain of making eye contact or whatever that interpersonal thing is, the pain of being in a crowd or being around sensory overload, that pain may never go away. But the fatigue that comes with trying to mask that pain, that I think is something that can go away if you just give it a break. So, it takes me an entire winter to get recharged so I can have fun mowing the grass. Okay, I'm a little weird, but I think it's fun to mow my grass. Probably not so much fun to mow other people's grass, but, I like to mow grass. But it takes an entire winter to recharge. But when spring comes, I'm good to go. I'm looking forward to it. Very possibly, it could take you months to get over your fatigue. But then again, it could take a few days or even less. I don't know. It depends on you. It depends on your circumstances. But still, you need to give it a break and take however much time you need. Then we say this, and I think this may be the most important part of our presentation. And I thought long and hard about this when I was putting these notes together. And that is, take breaks before the fatigue. Don't wait till the pain comes before you take a break from walking, Or if you're a weightlifter, which obviously I'm not. I mean, I lift weights, but I'm not a bodybuilder. But still, I have enough sense to know this, that you don't just lift weights 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Nearly every bodybuilder I know, with a few exceptions, they'll have a day of the week when they work on one part of their body, like their legs, or they'll have their arms, or they may work on their chest or their back another day. What do they do on those other days? They're taking a break. They're just not doing it because they know that if they work out constantly, it's actually not going to build up. And everybody knows this about lifting weights. It's about tear down and then rest while it builds up stronger. And then you tear down and then you rest till it builds back stronger. And when you have Asperger's syndrome, when you're on this spectrum, sometimes you need to understand, well, not sometimes, all the time, in my opinion, you need to understand that you need to take a break, not because it hurts, but you need to take a break so it doesn't start hurting, so it will heal before it goes too far. So take a break. Just, okay, it's bothersome, and we were using the idea of eye contact earlier, so it's bothersome to make eye contact with everybody all the time. Well, just don't do that. And even though you're not fatigued, you know you're going to get fatigued, so to save yourself from being fatigued, you just, look at their forehead, or instead of small talk, maybe you could just smile, or I like to give people a thumbs up, or maybe wave at them, so that they don't think I'm being aloof and rude and selfish. I'll try to acknowledge somehow, some way that they're a person, they're a human being. But I don't have to engage in small talk all the time. I can give it occasional breaks. Here's another good analogy that I think is very applicable to what we're talking about. Have you ever been driving down the street or the road, maybe a country road, maybe a highway, and your car stops because you are out of fuel, out of gas? It used to be gas. Now sometimes your battery, electric cars, battery runs out. So pull over to the side of the road, and you call AAA or call somebody, and they bring you gasoline and you get your car going. And you think to yourself, I should have refueled a little bit earlier. That's what we're talking about. You don't wait till your tank runs out of gas and then call AAA and get some fuel and go through all that. You replenish your gas tank constantly. Now, what's really annoying is if you run out of gas and you get your cell phone and you forgot to charge your cell phone. And there you are, stuck. And that's the way we go through life sometimes. We wait till we're out of gas. We wait till our cell phone battery is dead, and then we say, oh, I need to get more gas. Oh, I need to recharge. What would happen if we just kept gas in the gas tank all the time? Well, the way to do that is you got to take occasional breaks and actually pull your car into a gas station. That's taking a break. You have to take your cell phone or whatever device you're using, and you got to plug it in. Got to take a minute or less to go through that physical action of plugging the thing in. I think you do. Maybe they have devices now where you don't even have to do that. I just don't keep up with that stuff. But I think you get the point, is you don't wait till you get fatigued to deal with the fatigue. You deal with it now. Well, maybe today would be a good day. You don't feel fatigued today, but you know you're going to, so hey, rather than wait until you have this emotional, mental fatigue, you're just not going to look everybody in the eye. You're not going to engage in small talk conversation. You're just going to be yourself. Granted, you can be polite and nice to people. It doesn't mean you have to be a total jerk. I think everybody knows that. But I hope everybody knows that. But yeah, go ahead and take a break before the gas tank says empty, before the battery on your phone runs down completely. Go ahead and make taking a break a part of your routine. With all of that said, let's close out by saying this. And this is number 5. Don't fight it. What exactly does that mean? Don't fight it. Well, it means this. Fatigue is a natural process. Like we said before, go with the flow. But sometimes even then, we have this natural urge of resistance where we just want to fight it. How else can I say this? You got to keep in mind that your brain, as we mentioned earlier, is sending you a signal. And it's saying your fatigue is pain, so you need to knock it off. But when you understand that this is a natural part, well, it's a natural part of nature. And if you go against it, you're going against the way that you are designed, the way nature has made you. Now, I want you to imagine, we're going to use one more analogy and then we're done. But I want you to imagine you're driving down the road and there's a lake. And you think, boy, it'd be nice to go out on the lake, maybe do some fishing, so you drive your car out into the lake. And you don't get too far before you realize, oh, that was a mistake. Now, nobody, I don't think anyone is dumb enough to actually do that. Of course we're not. But why would we be dumb enough not to recognize that, just like a car is not designed to be a boat, that our body is designed for certain specific things, and we have to go with the flow of our design. And the flow of the design of your car is driving on the road. Now maybe you got one of these things that all-terrain vehicle, so you can get off the road. Maybe you're really rich and you can buy one of these cars that works as a boat. I don't know. I never even seen one of those things. I know they exist, but the point is, you are designed to work a certain way. Okay, I know. I heard of one guy who could leap buildings at a single bound, and people would shoot bullets at him and they just bounce off. They called this guy Superman. You're not Superman. I'm pretty sure. No, I could be wrong. There could be a guy named Clark Kent out there somewhere listening to this, but none of us are Superman. Superwoman. All of us at times need a break. And we shouldn't wait. You ready for this? We shouldn't wait until we break to take a break.